Hello everybody, I am NicoD, so here a New Year special, so the boards that I reviewed this year, so an overlook of all of them. So here we go! Hello everybody, I am NicoD, so today I'm back with a new device, and it is this, the Nanopi R6S. So I love this device a lot, I've gotten this from Friendly Elec, so this comes with the RK3588 S SoC, so this is very powerful. It has 8 cores, it has got 8 GB of RAM, and it also has got a 32 GB eMMC. So this has got 2 ports of 2.5 gigabit Ethernet and 1 port of 1 gigabit Ethernet. It also has got HDMI, which I love. It also has got a USB Type-C port for power, so PD up to 20 volts. It also has got an SD reader, which I love a lot. A lot of new RK3588 boards don't have an SD reader, so with this you can test images on the SD, and if you are happy with it, you can install it on eMMC, so you don't have to remove your production image to test something new. It also has got one USB 3 port and one USB 2 port. So what I use it for mostly is for a fast NAS, so I bought this Samsung Evo 872 TB SSD. So this is more than fast enough to saturate the USB 3 ports, and also more than fast enough to saturate the 2.5 gigabit Ethernet ports. And here the 7-zip decompression results with different SoCs. So the Nanopi R6S does outperform them all, but the Kata's FIM4 does come close. The single core performance of the Odroid N2 Plus is very good. It is overclocked a little bit, but we've seen that the RK3588 can perform better on single core. The Station P1 with RK3399 is less than half as powerful, and the Raspberry Pi 4, even clocked at 2 GHz, is less than half as powerful as the R6S. So it is very nice to have such a powerful CPU in such a device. For me it comes out very handy if I want to build an ambient image. It is pretty fast at that. Here the file transfer rates. So the SD reader is pretty good. 76 megabytes a second read, 52.8 megabytes a second write. The USB 3 performance is great, so 428.9 megabytes a second read, 410.4 megabytes a second write, and then the 32 gigabyte eMMC. I've already told you there is a problem here. So 280 megabytes a second read, this is good, but the write 34.3 megabytes a second. So it starts at 150 and it then goes down and down and down. So we've seen that happen before when copying a file to the eMMC over the network. And then the temperatures. So the idle temperature is 40 C. So that is 104 Frankenstein units. And maxed out it goes up to 70 C. And that's 158 Frankensteins. So, a while ago I've gotten these TV boxes from Inovato, so these are the Inovato Quadra TV boxes. So I promised them to review these. I've gotten these to give them away to kids. So for kids they are okay. So I installed a lot of software for kids, educational software and games. And for that they are okay, but these are not perfect. So what is the problem? They overheat very easily. And I started making the video and suddenly I saw it was at 90 degrees Celsius, and that just ain't good. So it was overheating. So this is really not good. This one is a lot worse than this, but this is also not perfect. So it is a bit a shame. So they come with the Allwinner H6 SoC. So this is a quad core. It can be clocked up to 1.8 gigahertz if you can cool it, but the problem is with this SoC, it cannot be cooled easily, certainly not when it is inside of a plastic box. So this has got 2 gigabytes of RAM, it has got USB 2, it has got one USB 3 port, it has got an SD card reader, it has got 100 megabits Ethernet, it has got HDMI, and it has got an audio jack. So here we have got the TV box. So you can also pay extra to have this. So this is a USB hub, USB 2, and also this. So this is a Bluetooth and Wi-Fi dongle. This can do 5 GHz Wi-Fi. So this is what I've done to improve it. So these are some added copper shims, and this is the thermal pad, thick thermal pad that makes contact with this heatsink. So you see the contact is made very well. So like this, it is a bit more usable. So it only adds a little bit more of thermal capacity, but it will still overheat, of course. So you would need a fan on this for it not to overheat, and even with a fan it might overheat. So this is the Motronic R58 Mini, and this is the Motronic R58X 4G. So both have got the Rockchip RK3588 SoC. So that has got 4 cores A55 at 1.8 GHz and 4 big cores A76 up to 2.4 GHz. So this one has got 16 GB of RAM, this one has got 8, so you can buy it with 4 gigs, 8 gigs or 16 GB of RAM. If I would have to make a choice between both, it would be very hard. This one has got 16 gigs, so I would choose this one for the RAM, but this one has got NVMe over PCIe 3, so this one can do more than 3000 megabytes a second over the NVMe. This one then has got a SATA port, and this can still do 400 megabytes, a bit more than 400 megabytes a second. So for me the SATA is actually good enough, and for me 16 gigs of RAM is an advantage. So here we see them both opened. So first of all, let's start over here. So it is powered with barrel jack 12 volts. It has got one HDMI out, 2 HDMI out and HDMI in, 1 LAN port. So let's go to the 4G. The 4G has got 2 LAN ports. It has got 1 DP, 1 HDMI out and 1 HDMI in. So this has got 1 more HDMI out port. There is a DP port over here. This one has got a DP port over here. But a difference is they both have got USB-C over here. So USB-C. But this one can do DP over USB-C, this one cannot do that. So this has got HDMI, it has display port, and then it has got USB-C for display. So let's put them next together. So one big difference you immediately see is of course the M.2 slot, so with the NVMe. So this is connected to PCIe 3, so this can be very fast. So this has got 4 lanes PCIe 3, so that means 4 times 1 gigabyte. So it can do up to 4 gigabytes. My NVMe over here can do 3.3 gigabytes, so that is great. This one also has got a mini PCIe port, but it isn't real mini PCIe. So I think it is connected to USB or so. It isn't real PCIe. I tried to plug other devices into it and it doesn't recognize it. But this is used for the 4G module. So here we have got our SIM card slots where we can put in a SIM card, a 4G SIM card. And with that we can have internet everywhere we go. So that is also important to know. It isn't true PCI. They are working on other boards that will have true PCI. So then let's go to the front. So here we see power button. We've got a 3.5mm audio jack. So the USB-C with PD, with display. 2 times USB 2 type A and 1 time USB 3 type A. So it also has got USB 3 over the USB-C. So both are very nice boards, but this has got a bit more. It has got a bigger heatsink and that makes a difference. So we will see that in the temperatures. This one has got full-size SATA port and also a power connector for SATA, while this one has got a ribbon connector. with SATA and power for SATA, so that is handy. There is also a plastic version of this. It is the same board but with a plastic case, and on top of the case there is room to plug in a SATA SSD or a SATA HDD. Then the temperatures. So as I said earlier, the Mini has a smaller heatsink than the 4G, so we see that in the temperatures. So the idle temperature for the Mini is 45 Celsius, maxed out it is 81 Celsius, while the 4G idle is 41 Celsius and maxed out 65 Celsius. So the maxed out temperature does make a huge difference, but it isn't problematic for the Mini. I can already say that the Pro has the same temperatures as the Mini. Then the transfer rates. So the Mini, its 64GB eMMC module performs better than the one of the 4G. I don't think this is board specific. Some modules perform better than others. So my Samsung 980 NVMe, the read was 3.1GB a second and the write 623.2 MB a second. Then my Samsung 970 QVO SSD, the read was 486.8 MB a second over the SATA and the write is 521.3 MB a second. All USB ports perform as they should. The USB 3 ports get 400 MB a second and the USB-C even does a little bit better. So here's a demo of 3 displays. So this is on the Motronic R58 X4G. So I've got a 4K display over here, 1080 display small and then a 1080 display. So my 4K display is connected with DP, my small 1080p display is connected with HDMI and my big 1080p display is connected via USB-C. One problem there is when you plug in a display when it is on, it often reboots. So this is the Orange Pi 5A. So there is also a 5B. The 5B doesn't come with NVMe over here, but it does have eMMC. So this model doesn't have eMMC. And this one also doesn't have Wi-Fi on board. So this is the cheapest of the RK3588 boards. This has got the RK3588S. So this is a cost down version. So this doesn't have got PCIe 3. So the RK3588 has got PCIe 3. The RK3588S only has got PCIe 2. So let's go over the specs. Let's go clockwise. So first we have got 24-pin GPIO header over here. Here we have got the SoC, of course. So this has got 4 times A55 at 1.8 GHz and 4 times A76 up to 2.4 GHz. Not all are clocked to 2.4, so it is between 2.2 and 2.4 GHz. We see the UART. Then we see the power LEDs. Then here we have got 2 times USB 3. I think it's over one controller. So then we have got gigabit Ethernet and USB 2 ports. Here we have got a camera connector. Here also a camera connector. And here also a third camera connector. Then here we have got our LCD 1 and LCD 2 connectors. Then here we have got USB Type-C, so this can also do DP, and this is USB 3. Here we have got our HDMI 2.1 up to 4K or even 8K maybe. So this is the audio in and out, so it can be used for microphone, but it also can be used for audio out. And then we have got the power, so it is powered with USB Type-C. Only 5 volts, so no PD, only 5 volts, up to 4 amps. Here we have got an on-off button, there is a microphone over here. Here we have got our SD card reader, so this is handy because it's easy to take out the SD card and put in another with another image. With the other boards that only have eMMC and no SD card, you cannot do that. So this also comes with an M.2 slot, so you can fit a normal NVMe into it. Turn it around. So you can fit it into it. It does work like this, but it sticks out, of course. And I've had a problem when filming this, so I don't know if you can see this. This is a capacitor that just fell off. It fell off the board from here. And this is the Motronic R58X HDD. So this can fit a hard drive in it. If we open this, then you can fit an SSD or a hard drive. So a 2.5 inch hard drive. So I'm gonna fit this one into here. There it goes, and I am going to install Armbian on this, and I am going to use it as an Armbian build server. So I've gotten this from Motronic. I also have got the Motronic R58 Mini, that's over here, and I have got the R58X Pro, and this is another version of the R58X. So this one has got here an SD card reader. I don't think this works with Armbian yet. It also has got the SSD fits, so that's something the others don't have. So it has got one HDMI in port, one HDMI out port, DP port, 2x1 gigabit Ethernet. That's a pity it isn't 2.5 gigabits. That would have been nice to use it as an AS on 2.5 or maybe even 10. You could fit a 10 gigabit Ethernet adapter from NVMe to 10 gigabit Ethernet. So there is room for it. So the Pro does have that and it does work. So it could have better Ethernet. Then on the front it has got one USB 3 port, full size, so A, and 2x USB 2. And it also has got a USB Type-C port, so Type-C is also USB 3. So let's open this up so I can show you what's inside. And here we go. So one thing I don't like about this board is this, the fan. It is a rather loud fan. The other Motronic boards all had only a heatsink, and this fan, yeah, it is always on and it is pretty noisy. So I would like to replace this fan with a bigger heatsink. There is room enough for a bigger heatsink. I don't mind if it throttles a little bit, but I really don't like a fan. So what do we have got? So we have got the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth antennas over here. So here we have got the mini PCI. No, that's NVMe. That's NVMe, yes. Where is my NVMe drive? So does that fit in there? Yes, so this is full-sized NVMe, and here we have got mini PCI Express, but it isn't true mini PCI Express. So it is just the same as the R58X, but it has got a few things more. So it has got this, the SATA HDD room, so it works with this SATA plug, and here we've got a power plug for it. So yeah, there's not much to say about it, I guess. It also has got the serial connector over here, so to run machines or some power plants use it, like solar panels or something like that. So for that it is pretty cool. This is the Mixar Blade 3, so this is a Rockchip RK3588 ARM SBC. So this has got a few cool design choices. So this is mainly designed for clusters, but it can also be used for desktop use and for server tasks. So for clusters it has got this, so this is an adapter board that can fit onto here. Alright, I have to unscrew these screws to fit it onto there, so I cannot show how it fits. With this you can connect multiple boards to each other, but about the cluster functionality I cannot talk yet. So we will look at that in a later video. But the cluster board is pretty cool, so you can power the board with this. Then you have got your two USB-C ports free. You have got an extra SATA port over here, and then you can cluster your boards. That for a later video. So it is not only good for clusters, but it is also good for desktop tasks. So with this NVMe adapter you can fit an NVMe to it. So you also have got this case, the black case. So there is a fan in here. The black case, I'm not such a fan of the big black case. I rather use this heatsink and put it on top of the black case, and that way it runs cool enough, it doesn't overheat. That way when you put this heatsink on the table, then it does overheat. So that makes a big difference. Also with the black case, how you orientate it also makes a big difference. So if you put it like this with the hot side down on your table, then it will overheat. If you put it like this with the hot side up, so actually it is upside down, it doesn't overheat. So that is very important to know. Just one thing, so it does have got a fan. I will show you all the temperatures later on, but the fan isn't that great. So if you leave it like this, the temperatures are just the same as if you leave the fan out and you put it like this. So let's start on the top left and go clockwise. So first we see the U.2 port. So this has got pins for 12 volts DC, 4 lanes PCIe Gen 3 and SATA. Then we see the 30 pin GPIO header. Then a debug UART. Next to that there are 4 debug switches. So these are important. So for example, if you want to put the board into mask ROM mode, then you set switch 4 to 1. They are very small and I have to use a giant magnifying glass with a small screwdriver to turn them on or off. Then we see the mini PCIe ports. So this is PCIe Gen 2, 1 lane. Then the micro SD card reader. So it is great, it has got a micro SD card reader. A lot of new RK3588 boards do not have it. But there is one thing, it is pointed inwards, so that makes it that it is not accessible when you use the black metal case. Then we see 2x USB Type-C, so both of these can do USB 3 speeds and also have DP for extra displays. But the first one is for power if you can't power it on another way. And then the second one is the only available USB port. It would have been nice if there was one full-size Type-A port. But well, there is only so much room on a board. Then we have got 2 HDMI ports. So the top HDMI port is HDMI out, the bottom HDMI port is HDMI in. Then we have got 2x 2.5 gigabit Ethernet. Next to that we have got the fan connector. And then on the bottom of the board there is the MIPI CSI connector for a camera. And of course the SOC, the RAM and eMMC. So this is how I use it. So I use a USB Type-C hub. It also has got an HDMI port, so I could do dual display. And I use my mini PCIe to SATA adapter for my SATA SSD. And the aluminium heatsink on top of the black metal case. And here you can see me put it into the black case. So I don't dislike the black case. I do dislike the fan. So one issue with the black case is it is the lid that keeps contact with the CPU. So the lid gets very hot, but the rest of the case doesn't get as hot, because the contact between the lid and the case ain't that great. It would have been better if the CPU was on the case side. And as I said, it cools better when it is upside down. So when the letters are unreadable. And now let's show you the fan noise. It isn't an efficient fan. It is blowing inside of the case and not where the SOC is. For a server room this is no problem, but I do not like my ARM devices to use a fan. So the fan is inside of this tunnel, so it sucks air in here and it blows it out over there. So actually the fan is cooling this side, but it is this that cools the CPU. Here is a power consumption, so with nothing connected in idle, it consumes 3 watts. When I connected the 2.5 gigabit Ethernet, it was 3.8 watts. With my USB Type-C hub and keyboard dongle, it was 5.8 watts. And then with everything connected and all CPU cores maxed out, it was 12 watts. So the difference between maxed out and idle is 6 watts. That is a great performance per watt compared to older SBCs, certainly compared to the Raspberry Pi 4. And here are the transfer rates. So with USB 3 with SATA adapter, I get 393.3 megabytes a second reads and 390.8 megabytes a second writes. With my mini PCIe SATA adapter, I get 408.2 megabytes a second reads, but only 273.7 megabytes a second writes. Not sure why that is. It starts at 400 megabytes and then goes down at a half. Then my Samsung 980 NVMe, 3.2 gigabytes a second reads, but only 624.5 megabytes a second writes. Also not sure why that is. And then the 128 gigabyte eMMC does 168 megabytes a second reads and 228.7 megabytes a second writes. A bit weird that the write speeds are faster than the read speeds. The idle temperature was best with the aluminium heatsink on top of the black case. Then it was 47 degrees Celsius and maxed out it went to 80 degrees Celsius. When it is not on the black case, the maxed out temperature is 83 degrees Celsius, but it is throttling. The same temperature in the black case without the fan, but with the sock on top of the table, it is also going to 84 degrees Celsius and heavy throttling. With the fan it goes to 81 degrees Celsius, so it doesn't make so much difference. And if you turn it around without the fan, it is also 81 degrees Celsius. And this is the UU2 X1 x86 SBC, so this comes with the Celeron N5105 SoC. So this has got 4 cores, the base clock is 2 GHz, but it can boost to 2.6 GHz on 4 cores and even to 3 GHz on a single core. So the single core performance of this is even better than the RK3588, but of course all cores it isn't. It is as powerful as the Odroid N2 Plus, so I do have this is the RockPi X. So this is an older x86 SBC from Russia. This one is 2 times as powerful as this, so that is nice. It isn't a gaming monster, but it can do all the Windows games. So like what I'm playing is Kerbal Space Program. Even GTA 5 runs on it, but not great. It has some stutters. What else? Oh, Cycling Manager, Pro Cycling Manager 2023. So the latest version runs on this. It doesn't look nice, but it runs good enough to be playable. So one of the major plus sides of this board is its great I/O. So it has got this, so the E-key, M.2 E-key for Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. It has got NVMe. It also has got a ribbon over here for SATA. So you can connect a hard drive or a SATA SSD to it over here. I do not have this connector, too bad. End of year NicoD here. I now have the SATA connector and I like it a lot. So this is how I've used the board at a LAN party lately. And it was great. I do love this board. And I am waiting on an N100 SBC. So that will be great, but that's for next year. So now back to the video. It also has got MIPI, so for an extra display it has got a full-sized HDMI port, but also a micro HDMI port. I wish they could replace this with a USB-C connector with PD, because I really do not like this connector. So it has got SD card reader, it has got gigabit Ethernet, USB 3, it has got a lot of expansion ports over here, so 2 times USB 2. Then it has got 3 times UART, that is very handy. It has got SPI, it has got GPIOs, it has got, I don't know what it was. So it really is very good in I/O. I do not want to compare with Raspberry Pi 5, but we have to do this kind of. So CPU wise, it is almost as powerful as the Raspberry Pi 5, but in I/O this outmatches the Raspberry Pi 5 in everything. And of course you can run x86 native on this. So for x86 gaming this is great. For older x86 games it isn't great for emulation. I tried PS2 on it and that wasn't really playable. So you can do Nintendo 64, PS1, Dreamcast, all those. So yeah, it is a nice board. So in this video we are gonna review this board. So I've been using it now for a week and a half and I must say I'm very happy with it. So for me, I am using RK3588 as my main desktop and I will keep using it, but this is great for a second desktop. So I always have two computers on, and for this is great. I often have to start my PC just for RK DevTools to burn images on Rockchip devices. Now I can do that with this. I do not have to turn on my PC. It is very silent. It doesn't overheat. The heatsink is great. So it is really a nice board. So let's go to the specs. Here we go. Then we see the NFC connector. So this is special. So this is a new standard, something like RFID, but it can read and write. So you can use a smartphone with this or a payment card or something like that. I have nothing to test this, but I will see to get something to test this in a later video. So I already said this comes with the Intel Celeron N5105. So the base clock is 2 GHz, max clock is 2.9 GHz and 2.65 GHz on all cores. So this is 10 nanometer 11 gen. The GPU is an Intel UHD graphics at 450 MHz base and 800 MHz boosts. Mine comes with 8GB LPDDR4 at 1455 MHz. You can also buy it with 4GB or with 16GB. Mine comes with 128GB of eMMC. You can also buy it without eMMC or up to 256GB. So it can do triple display. It has got one full-sized HDMI port, one micro HDMI port and then a MIPI DSi for the 7-inch display. It doesn't come with Wi-Fi or Bluetooth on board, but it has that M.2 E-key for Wi-Fi 5 plus Bluetooth 5 or Wi-Fi 6 with Bluetooth 5.2 or 4G LTE. So the rest we have talked about. Got 3 displays connected, so with the ribbon cable, the 7-inch, then with micro HDMI, this one, and then my 4K display over here. So let me take this and go to here, and I'll go to there. Hello everybody, so this is the sound of the onboard microphone from the UE2 X1. So one problem that I had with the UE2 X1 was that I didn't see any desktops in Linux desktops, but that was because the 7-inch display was always on, even when it was not connected. So as you see here, I am in my Ubuntu and there is no desktop, or at least there is no taskbar. So to fix this, I go to display settings, and as you see here the 7-inch is enabled. I go to single display, I choose the correct display, and now I can see my desktop. Some people will have to update their BIOS to enable the display. So the Windows experience is really good with this, certainly for an SBC. So I've got a laptop with the N5000 SoC, so this is a bit older. This is a way better experience than that laptop. It is faster, the GPU is faster, everything is better. So you can play multiple 4K videos. So let me play a 4K video of my own over here. Hello all. Hello all, it's the last day. It is freaking hot. So the last full day that I stay here in Grovelin. Tomorrow I'm going home. So the day after, it's they say it's gonna rain, so
That's why I'm gonna
and then open another 4K video file, and as you see, this plays pretty well, no dropped frames.
Protect me in a few hours, but right now it isn't. So I'm going for a walk.
I am NicoD. Today I am glad to say that I'm back with a new single board computer. So this is the most powerful ARM single board computer that I ever held in my hands. So I am very happy with it. So this is the Cadas Vim 4. So this is the newer version of the Cadas Vim 3. I have seen it consume more than 36 watts, what the PSU is rated for. But that was between the plug and the PSU. There is always a loss. I should buy a clamp voltmeter so I can measure it on the cable itself on the inputs. So I'm doing a Blender render test in Windows. I have a lot of things connected. I have this SSD connected to my USB here. I don't have an NVMe right now, but I do have my keyboard, so this display is on, this display is on. But now let's check. This is a problem. 46 watts. But this adapter is only 36. So we are already at 46. I don't get it. So here the transfer rates. So the eMMC of 128 GB in Windows did 274.8 megabytes a second read and 177 megabytes a second write. In Linux the read speed was a bit better, but the write speed was worse. Then the SanDisk Extreme Pro 128 GB SD card and the SD card reader did 87.7 megabytes a second read and 66.6 megabytes a second write. With my USB 3 SD adapter it did 89.9 megabytes a second read and 81.5 megabytes a second write. So the write could be better, but it still performs pretty well for an SD card reader on an SBC. So my gigabyte 256 gigabyte NVMe did 1720 megabytes a second read and 1100 megabytes a second write. But then I bought the crucial P3 1 terabyte and that did 3491 megabytes a second read and 3120 megabytes a second write. My external USB 3 to SATA SSD Crucial BX500 of 2 terabytes did 456 megabytes a second read and 409 megabytes a second write. So the USB 3 speeds are pretty good. 450 megabytes is the most that I ever seen on a USB 3. So the Gigabit Ethernet did 110 megabytes a second read and 112 write. And the Wi-Fi adapter key E did 50 megabytes a second read and write. But in Ubuntu it was only 23 megabytes a second read and also write. So here are the benchmark results. So there was something wrong with Blender in Ubuntu 22.04. It took way longer than it should. But in Windows it did 5 minutes 17 seconds. My N5000 laptop did 9 minutes 23 seconds. My Motronic R58 Mini with the RK3588 did 3 minutes and 25 seconds. And my Ryzen 3700X did 48 seconds about it. So it can't compete with a modern gaming PC of course, but that was expected. Else I wouldn't have my PC. So the 7-zip all cores, in Windows I've done it with WSL2 to compare the performance between WSL2 and Ubuntu. So 10,171 MIPS in Windows 11, 12,079 in Ubuntu Studio 23.10, 12,000 MIPS in Ubuntu 22.04, the N5000 does 8,000 MIPS, the RockPi X 5,700, the RK3588 16,900 and my PC 55,500. And this is the Orange Pi 5 Plus in its metal case. So this comes with the RK3588 non-S. So this is about the cheapest RK3588 non-S. with all the bells and whistles. So it has got NVMe, so 4 lanes PCIe Gen 3. Then it has got 1 lane PCIe Gen 2 on the E key. It also has got 2 times USB 3 and a USB Type-C that also can do PD. It also has got 2 times HDMI out and 1 time HDMI in, 2 times 2.5 gigabit Ethernet. So it has got everything it can have. This is really an awesome board. So one thing it doesn't have is onboard Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. For that you can use an E key. So I like the case a lot. The maximum temperature is about 73 degrees Celsius. I did replace the thermal pads with copper shims, about 70 degrees less. So less than 64 degrees. I've done an experiment. I read that an egg can coagulate at 64 degrees Celsius. So I preheated this with Blender. I was running Blender renders. And then when the sock was about 70 degrees, I put on some egg whites, but it didn't coagulate. So my experiment failed. So the case doesn't get hotter than 64 degrees Celsius is what I think. But the CPU does get up to 73 degrees Celsius, which ain't that bad. It isn't overheating at all. As you see, I am using thermal pastes, a copper shim over here, and like that I'm making contacts. For the RAM chips I have got thermal pads, so that also gets contact. So with the Type-C power port, so this is only 5 volts, so no PD, 5 volts up to 4 amps. Then we see the dual 2.5 gigabit Ethernet. This is really great to have. 2 times HDMI out, 1 time HDMI in, 2 times USB 2 ports, recovery button, 40 pin expansion header, a speaker connector, the memory 2 gigs, 4 gigs, 8 gigs, 16 gigs or up to 32 gigabytes. Of course the memory chips would be 16 gigabytes then. Then we go to the audio jack, LED, microphone, infrared receiver, power button, 2 time USB 3, USB Type-C with USB 3 and DP. So for a third display, mask ROM button, M.2 mounting nut, the USB 3 hub, PCIe clock, the PMU RK806-1, the M.2 E key for Wi-Fi and Bluetooth if you want it, eMMC interface, TTL debug UART, real-time clock connector, and the SPI flash, and also the lib-redefined CDM for DRM content. I've found that there is a small performance boost with this newer image. It is only 2%, but hey, I will take 2%. And now for gaming. So here I've got my games folder with my favorite games, but I also have got RetroPie over here with thousands of other games. So I have got really tons of games, more than I could ever play in a lifetime. So here it is.
3, 2, 1, go! 56 left, 36 right, 50 turn 3 right, into 6 right, 30 crest, 73 left, 33 right.
So that runs great. Another Linux game that runs really well is GTA 3. So this is with an app image. So again, box64 app run. And this runs great.
You're listening to Head Radio, the rock of Liberty City for 60 years. I'm DJ Michael.
One of my favorite games. This is an old version, Kerbal Space Program. I need to install a later version. I paid for it. This also plays very well. So let's build a rocket and go into space. So here is RetroPie. So all you need to do to open it is type emulation station. And as you see, I've got tons of games. So my favorite Nintendo 64 game is F1 Racing Championship. That's really an awesome game. I can play that for hours. I love Tony Hawk Pro Skater. So now let's quickly go through the rest of the video because I've already taken up so much time. So the idle temperature is 49 degrees Celsius with this metal case and 73 degrees Celsius maxed out. So the transfer rates. So the onboard SD card reader can do 70 megabytes a second read and 56.9 megabytes a second write. The eMMC 256 gigabytes does 331 megabytes a second read and 274 megabytes a second write. The Western Digital NVMe does 3.2 gigabytes a second reads and 1.5 gigabytes a second writes. USB 3A data does 392.7 megabytes a second reads and 359 megabytes a second writes. Here are the benchmark results. So the RK3588 is the fastest and they all are the same. Even the RK3588S performs the same. It only is missing 4 lanes PCIe Gen 3. So I love the Orange Pi 5 Plus a lot. What I truly love is that the HDMI ports are on the back, also the power is on the back, the Ethernet is on the back, and then you have the USB ports on the front. That is really awesome. And there are enough USB ports. There is 2 times USB 3 on the front and the USB-C, that's USB 3. And on the back there is 2 times USB 2. I love it with the metal case. It is a great metal case. Would be great for me to take it with me on my trips, but it isn't mine. It is from Werner from Armbian, so I'm gonna send it back after this review. So that will be it for our New Year special. So the Orange Pi 5 Plus is the best RK3588 that I've reviewed. I'm still using the Motronic R58 Mini as my main desktop, but I should switch to another RK3588 that has 2.5 gigabit Ethernet. Like the Mixar Blade 3 for example. I'm gonna review a lot of new boards in the coming year. So all subscribe for that. So thank you all for watching. See you later. Bye.